Hello everyone, Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching. I have another Monday quarterback video for you. I'm going to play the entirety of this video and then I'll go back and talk about things that I think were done right and or done wrong. Without further ado, here we go.
In front of the rock now. See, you're in Jarvis.
We're going to be pulling over in a express.
Pulling over Panda Express.
It's really blowing off.
Okay, he's still moving. He's going to be pulling over in front of the rock.
Pulling over in front of rock.
Hey, pull in. Stop. Pull over, man. Okay, we're eastbound through the lot.
Eastbound to the left.
Yeah, you're just going to be taking off on the driver's helping in pursuit.
See in pursuit on Jarvis.
Confirm your pursuit.
Affirm.
We're going to be northbound on Arterwood, 434.
North on onward towards 84.
3 lanes. Traffic is moderate.
Number 3 lane moderate traffic.
Oh, you just CC'd on the other ramp. He's going to be continuing. 40 eastbound, number 2. He's got a left rear flat.
Eastbound number 2 lane.
Just notify CHP. Reports from coming up 84, where you at? We're eastbound 84, still on the ramp. He's going to be on the right-hand shoulder.
Copy, I'm coming off right now.
He's yielding.
Vehicle yielding.
Shots fired! Shots fired! Shots fired!
Shots fired. 1199. Shots fired.
Suspect down.
Suspect down. Peter, you hit?
Negative. Shots fired!
All right. Let's jump into it. So they caught wind of this dude being in the area via a license plate reading camera. These things are pretty cool. They're not in total widespread use. I don't think that in my area they're utilized. Now they are utilized by the state police, but the smaller agencies around my area haven't got them yet. So this is the kind of technology that you would normally see with agencies that have larger budgets. And you can also, I would assume, get these things on some grants and stuff like that. But in larger municipalities, you will likely encounter these and see these. In very smaller areas, maybe not so much, unless it's a state vehicle with them on. And it's not just law enforcement that utilizes these things. Parking enforcement, which you could, I guess, say is still a part of law enforcement to some degree, really depends on the agency and how it's, or the city or that municipality and how it's done up. There are some municipalities where parking enforcement actually falls under the police department, and then other places, parking enforcement is sort of like its own little entity for the city government or whatever. But normally see these things in bigger areas. I like them. I think they're a pretty cool piece of technology. It's certainly makes capturing or detecting known criminals a lot easier. I mean, this guy, he was driving around in this town and, there's, he probably, I would say that there's probably a good possibility that he could have passed a couple of police officers and they never knew. They never had any idea that they passed him. But he passes a camera that can see the license plate and boom, it alerts everyone else that this particular vehicle is here. So I think they're a really good piece of technology. Unfortunately, your more liberal groups out there like the ACLU they attack these things and they want to get rid of them or completely limit what they can do, but altogether just get rid of them. I think that's not right. I think these are good pieces of technology and equipment to have for the safety of the community. It's one of those things that, like I said, you see them in bigger areas, but as time goes on, the cost of these things are going to go down a little bit, or other places are just going to have to adjust their budgets to be able to get these kind of things. And I see these things becoming a little bit more common all across the country than what they are right now. So they already know that this vehicle was associated with an armed robbery. The motor cop, he waits for additional officers to arrive. Now, he is also, as we see in his video, I'll get to it, he also follows pretty close. Now, as he's waiting for other people, could he have maybe hung back a little bit further? Yeah, sure, he could have hung back a little bit further, made it so less obvious that he was following the guy. But then again, if he had too much distance in between them, it being such a largely populated area, he could have very easily lost sight of him and then the guy get away. So it's a catch-22, I guess you could say. Interestingly enough, too, from this camera angle and view, if you didn't know any better, you would think that this was from Metro State. Old Jeremy DeWitt driving this motorcycle. Funny little joke. The guy obviously, he pulls into, let's see here, let me back it up some. So here he is right here. And this guy actually pulls into a parking space. And this is pretty common with people once they notice they're being followed by the police. They'll do something like, I'll just, act like nothing's going on and pull into a parking space.
Pull it over in front of Ross.
Pulling over in front of Ross.
And then he starts to back out once he realizes that his little camouflage isn't working. I understand this officer was wanting to wait for additional units to get there. Totally get that. But at the same time, once this guy pulls into a spot, it's pretty obvious that he knows he's being followed. He could have went ahead and stopped the bike here and then get out. Would it have still resulted in a gunfight? Most likely. It still probably would have resulted in a gunfight. But this vehicle, you can see, is still in reverse. This guy has not committed to fully stopping and getting out. So if this officer would have stopped, hit the kickstand, got off, this guy would have had to have gone through the OODA loop, registered the fact the officer was stopping, getting off his bike, and then he'd have to think about either A, hitting it in reverse and then trying to hit and drive and take off, or transition in the park, open the door, get out with gun blazing. So I hate playing what ifs because, in this scenario, there's a lot of different things that could have happened if this officer decided to just stop right here and then get off his bike. And being on a bike kind of sucks because you don't have a lot of the protection that you get with a vehicle. So, if he was in a vehicle, the simpler thing that could have been done is pull up closer to the suspect vehicle to kind of block it in. That would be a possibility. Obviously, you're not going to block an SUV in with a motorcycle. That's just not going to happen. But And you also lose cover. So, yes, there is an engine on this thing that can stop bullets, but it's a very small profile, and trying to hide behind a motorcycle, it's a lot harder than trying to hide behind the engine block of a car or SUV or truck.
Pull it over and turn it off.
Now, he could have been thinking, this bad guy, the whole time,
Pulling over and turn around.
thinking about getting out and shooting at this moment. He's probably watching the cop as he comes up here, makes his little U-turn, and it looked like he had it in reverse, and then I have to play it one more time. So it almost looks like he's starting to roll forward, but it could just be from the angle of the camera where him moving, it looks like the vehicle moves forward, but I can't really tell for sure, especially when the mirror blocks the reverse light area.
Hey, pull in. Stop. Pull over, man.
Obviously doesn't follow those verbal commands to stop, pull over.
Hey, we're eastbound through the line.
Eastbound to the wire.
Yeah, you should be taking off on the driver. Something in pursuit.
See in pursuit on driver.
Confirm your pursuit.
Affirm.
We're going to be northbound on Arrowwood, 434.
Now, watch his left thumb. Watch his left thumb here.
Northbound onward towards 84.
Traffic is moderate.
Anytime he wants to talk, he uses his left thumb here
Number 3 lane moderate.
to hit the push the talk button. Now, obviously, that is a very needed piece of equipment for a motorcycle, because it would be extremely hard for him to operate the motorcycle one-handed while using the traditional microphone right here. So instead, this radio design and setup has a little push to talk button right here on the handle, and he's able to maintain both hands on the handle and use his thumb to push the button and be able to talk on the radio. That's pretty nifty. Now, there is not, to my knowledge, any products like that for regular cars or SUVs, trucks. At least not in the law enforcement realm. Now, there are special brackets to put on a steering wheel to add a push the talk button, and those are typically seen in race car type of applications. I, for one, really think that this type of application could very easily be added into a car setting to be able to give a person the ability to keep both hands on the steering wheel and still call out radio traffic. I've not seen any videos that would show any kind of setup like that. That does not mean that a setup like that out there does not exist. If it does exist, then it's not in widespread use, or else we would see it in a video somewhere. I don't want to say it doesn't exist at all with any agency. Someone might do that, but I don't know if they do or not. I think this could either be a simple aftermarket addition to be able to add to existing cars, or for these manufacturers that produce service vehicles like Dodge, Ford, and Chevy, the models that they produce for police work, I think it would be very easy for them to, on the steering wheel, along with all the other little buttons that control things like radio, like AM, FM radio, volume, preset stations, cruise control, all those little buttons you normally find on the steering wheel. I think it would be very easy for them to add a button to the steering wheel that would lead to some wires that could be easily hooked up to a radio system to give officers the ability to keep both hands on the steering wheel and key up the radio. I would love to see something like that come out just for the safety and security of officers having to drive their vehicles and talk on the radio at the same time. But unfortunately, it just doesn't seem like it's a thing right now because I haven't seen it anywhere. If anybody watching these videos that has the ability to, create changes like that, please do so, because I think it would be widely accepted and embraced by many places. Because when you think about, if he was in a car and he's driving down the road, he would have to take one hand off the steering wheel, pick this thing up off a little bracket, talk to it, and either A, try to hold it in his hand while still drive, or B, clip it back down into its little mount thing, and then put hand back on the steering wheel. And while he's clipping it in and unclipping it, mostly clipping it back in, he has to look at the damn thing and take his eyes off the road. So if we could get this same kind of setup in cars, I think it would be the cat's meow.
Eastbound, number 2 lane.
Just notify CHP.
Now, in this particular video, Freemont Police, I have another video from Fremont Police where they go to initiate a traffic stop on a vehicle and they take off and they terminate pursuit. So I don't know what this agency's particular policies are. Obviously, this guy's not stopping and he is still pursuing, and he has decided not to self-terminate, and no supervisor has got on there and told him to terminate pursuit. And it could be that the vehicle was linked to an armed robbery, and that could meet their policies for exemption of terminating pursuits. So if it was something like the guy didn't use his turn signal when making a turn and this officer decides to make a stop, well, if it's just a simple traffic violation, the no pursuit policies could be, all right, well, let them go. It's not worth chasing them. Whereas, all right, we already know this, excuse me, we already know this vehicle is involved in armed robbery. They're a threat to society. It's okay to go ahead and get into a pursuit, but there's probably some language in there that would give guidance on when to terminate. What exactly this agency's policies are, I don't really know, but policies like that exist with other agencies. Some agencies just have a flat-out no pursuit policy whatsoever, where they don't even really pursue for much of anything unless it's the person shot at the police or has shot someone.
Hey, Birch, I'm coming up 84. Where you at? We're eastbound 84, still on the ramp. He's going to be on the right-hand shoulder. Okay, I'm coming off right now.
No, we can't see it because of the windshield and the handlebar of the bike and how his body camera is positioned. But at some point, and it's probably this point, the guy gets out of the vehicle and comes towards him. He's already out and he's shooting at him.
Vehicle yielding.
Shots fired! Shots fired! Shots fired!
Shots fired, 1199, shots fired.
Suspect down.
Suspect down. Gator, you hit?
Negative.
So you can see he has already made it from the driver's side door to this point. Now, I can't tell for sure how far from the vehicle he is, but he is obviously to the rear of the vehicle and a little bit past the rear of the vehicle, shooting before this guy recognizes the fact he's being shot at and ditches the bike down. So this guy was quick to get out of the vehicle, but we don't get to see it because of the windshield and console of the bike obstructing the view of the body camera. So, and this is where I talked about it sucks being on a motorcycle because there's not a whole lot of cover to get in behind. If you were in a vehicle, one option for being in the vehicle is you just stomp on the accelerator and run this motherfucker over. V8 will beat 9mm, 40, 45, 10mm, whatever, all damn day. No questions asked. It will certainly beat those calibers. So, that's an option if you're in a vehicle. Now, could he, hit the accelerator on the motorcycle and go at them? No. I mean, that's not going to work the same as a vehicle. Now, his options are to kind of stay on the bike and draw and shoot, or get off the bike and move and shoot. Staying on the bike, I don't think is a very viable option because you're just sitting there, you're standing still. You're motionless and you want to move. Motionless operators ventilate easily. If you're not moving, you're getting ventilated. So he makes the good choice in getting off that damn thing and moving, making himself a moving target and harder to shoot, getting off the X. Some people may see this as him running away from the fight, but at this close distance, him remaining to straddle the bike and stand there and trying to shoot it out with this guy, it's not going to end very well.
Shots fired!
Now, some people may take issue with the fact that he's running away and he's still shooting at him. I don't take any issue with that whatsoever. This dude just tried to kill him, a uniformed police officer. If this dude is going to attempt to kill a uniformed police officer, then he will shoot and kill anyone else. And he has done so. So I have no problem whatsoever shooting a fleeing felon like this. He is a danger to society. He is a clear and present danger to society. Allowing him to escape puts other people's lives at risk. No problem with him shooting him while he's running away and shooting him in the back. Could care less. So he already attempted to kill someone at an illegal gambling facility. So this person that he shot in the back of the head while they were on the ground, they were extremely lucky to survive that. I mean, obviously I don't know the total circumstances involved in this, the angles and everything and the calibers and all that, but something as simple as the victim having their head turned just a few degrees more to either side could have resulted in them dying. And a paramedic arriving 2 minutes later, 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later could have been the thing that made a difference in this victim surviving or not. He shot this victim in the head, and this victim was lucky to survive. I don't really see the difference in in this particular kind of scenario of murder versus attempted murder, that's just a distinction on whether or not the victim died or not. Like this guy, he tried to kill this person. He tried to murder them. And because of some, minute, difference in something, they survived. So I consider this guy to be a murderer, even though he didn't fully succeed. He intended to kill that person. Now, we don't see the rest of the video. It's just him retreating, getting off the X, and then getting in a position to return fire.
99, shots fired.
Suspect down.
Suspect down. Gator, you hit?
Negative.
Suspect down. Gator, you hit?
Now, here's the rifle on the back of the motorcycle that they were talking about. It's hard to see at the angle of the camera, and of course the little play bar here in the bottom, but there's where the rifle's at. But the video stops shortly after he shoots him, and so we don't get to see immediately what happens after this. What I would like to have seen is him do a magazine change, just to be on the safe side. And then, of course, detaining this guy when safe to do so. And, it would have been nice to see, what kind of medical care would have been provided. I'm still kind of, I guess, maybe on the fence a little bit about rendering aid to someone that has just tried to kill you. There's part of me that says, all right, you've used the deadly physical force, the threat's over with, yeah, go ahead and try to render some first aid. Then there's the other part of me that says, the hell with that. This guy just tried to kill you, just tried to kill people. No, don't waste your time. Let the ambulance deal with it. So, I don't know. There's some confliction there internally for me when it comes to that kind of stuff. Kind of the same when it comes to Narcan. But, if the expectation and the policies are in place to render first aid, then where is your first aid kit? And this is usually where my rant talks about if you are going to carry the tools to induce trauma, then you should be carrying the tools to reduce trauma. Now, him being on a motorcycle, he's limited in how much junk he can carry around on duty. If you're in a car or an SUV, you've got some storage space. You can throw all kinds of crap in the back of your trunk or your SUV. Motorcycle, you're pretty darn limited. But he still has some what looks like a side saddle right here, maybe. Probably in the back right here, you can put some stuff there. He could definitely have, for sure, a decently stocked trauma kit on the bike, but he can also have medical gear on him. But we don't know how his uniform looks like. If he's got the outer vest, if you got an outer vest with pouches on it, there's really no reason why you shouldn't have something like an IFAK on you. If you're going to have a vest with all these pouches on the front, definitely have a pouch with medical stuff on it. Now, usually motor cops will have the long, tall leather boots, and so having something like an ankle medical kit is going to be pretty difficult for them to have because of that boot going all the way up over the ankle area. Whereas normal patrol guys, normal pants, it's a lot easier to have an ankle holster on for medical gear. So as far as on his body and everything, at minimum, for sure, a tourniquet on him. But other than that, if he's got that traditional uniform look and with the boots on, it's going to be hard for him to have anything else unless he's got cargo pockets on. Other than that, everything else is going to have to be contained to the bike. And if that's going to be the case, then for sure need a good medical kit on the bike itself. So he got shot at, and when we go through FAST, we fight, assess, scan, and top off. Once we top off, we need to treat injuries, talk to people, take cover. One of those it will need to happen or be considered. But when it comes to treating injuries, I already talked about having the medical gear. Now let's talk about patting yourself down following a gunfight. Even though you don't consciously register pain or feel anything going on, doesn't mean you haven't been shot. And there have been plenty of people who in a gunfight have been shot and they never knew they got shot during that gunfight or immediately after it until they noticed blood coming from them or someone else noticed blood coming from them because their adrenaline was pumping so much and their endorphins was pumping so much they just didn't feel it. There have been people who during a fight were stabbed with a knife multiple times and they never registered the fact that they were stabbed multiple times. They just thought the other person was punching them. So following a gunfight, when it is safe to do so, you need to check yourself and make sure that you haven't been hit. And if you're by yourself and it's safe to do so, pat yourself down. If someone else gets there, ask them to pat you down. Say, hey, check me for injuries. If you're that second person getting there and it's safe to do so, once it's safe, you need to start assessing that person who was there at that gunfight and make sure they're not injured. Other than that, not much else to talk about. If you like what you hear and see, go ahead and give me a like and a share. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more Monday quarterback videos. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense, thank you for watching.